Nope, none of that. But this is my video for the Topton Multigun from July 2023, and for this one, I decided that I wanted to use my M16A1 because it's cool. That's really the only reason. I knew this match was going to be difficult because Topton is mostly designed around people using really, for lack of a better word, gamer guns. And I've come to this match before without those kinds of setups, and it's been a struggle. But the M16A1 is good enough. I felt like I could do it. But the only thing that was going to really hold me back was the fact I'm using my 1911. So I'll be leaving a Hansel and Gretel trail of magazines behind me, and I was going to do a funny little counter of the number of times I reloaded, but I don't have video of all the stages. Sadly, I don't have a video of the final one, which is a shame because it was the jungle run, but it is what it is. And this stage also had something really cool. After I button up my terrible magazine pouch, you'll see this door has a wooden stick in it. The goal was to shoot it open, and then once you put enough bullets in it and the stick is weak enough, then there's a weight that'll pull the door open for you. Another thing that made this match pretty challenging was the fact that it had rained the night before and was also raining in the morning while we were finishing setup. So, and I was helping with that. So you can see I'm already wet, and on top of that I've got a steel pot in my head that I'll have throughout the day. Haven't had breakfast, haven't hydrated at all, and I have one canteen on my butt to help me get throughout the day. So, in other words, it's just business as usual. This stage was actually a lot of fun despite the amount of pistol shooting that was on it. The rifle shooting is pretty simplistic, but getting to shoot open a door and then go along just knocking down steel is always a good time. And then you get Texas Star at the end and Plate Practice to finish off. I was pretty impressed with my performance with the 1911, which I guess shouldn't surprise me all that much because I've historically had very good results with it, especially at Woodland Brutality. I guess it would have been a little over a year ago now. I did really, really well with 1911 with that, and over the course of all this metal match, I didn't miss a whole lot. Part of that was I was deliberately going very slow because I knew that Topton is what you would call a target-rich environment, and the 1911 has 7-round magazines. I have one 8-rounder, but I don't really use it because that's just not cool. But I have 7-round mags, like a 4 in my belt, and then 3 more in my pocket. And that was just going to have to get me throughout the day. And it did, surprisingly. Although in the previous stage you saw, I used literally every single magazine to get through it. That was a very high round count stage. This one is rifle only, so no pistol, thankfully. And you were made to shoot this close array, which was, I don't know, 80, 90 yards, maybe 100. But you had to shoot it on your weak shoulder, which I was a bit nervous about because I hadn't practice that with this rifle, or I don't practice much at all. I should do that. But it ended up going alright. It was pretty close, like I said. It's not that bad. This was actually going to be the hard part, is shooting those targets with iron sights at 200 yards. Now you see I don't adjust anything because the M16's iron sights are just a flip position L, and the standard aperture is good for, I think it was 47 to 250 meters or yards, can't remember. I think it was yards. And this is right about 200, so I'm having to hold at the bottom edges of the plate, maybe a little bit bottom quarter. And I don't have that difficult time hitting the targets that I can see, and this is a perennial problem of mine, is once I can see the target, I can pretty well engage it, but because you'll see these have a white backdrop on them, and they tend to sag and crease, and those creases cast shadows. And sometimes these targets are small enough that I can't really see the targets that are blending in with them, especially over iron sights. I don't have magnification or anything like that. So that's what makes this particularly difficult. You see the gun is already starting to cook off some steam. That was reload number 1. I think from this point on, I'm just going to be hammering away, trying to see the last target. I think this would be the second to last one. I'm adjusting my helmet, trying to see if that lets any more light to my eyes. But there's one target here that's particularly small I don't know exactly how wide it was, but it blended right in with the crease that was on that backdrop. And there I just moved on to the next target. Another thing is that after each hit on the targets, you had to go to the stop plate that was off to the side, so you were alternating, not just going across the rack. But you see, I did manage to clear it. It took a long time, but I did. This is a more close range stage. It's on one of the close stages. Those plates are about 50 yards, although they are kind of small. Although because they're pretty well out in the open and they're pretty close, I don't have a hard time seeing them, so I don't have a hard time hitting them. And you do that from this tree, which is not stable at all. You can't see it in the video, but I have 1 foot braced on it just to keep it from moving. And another thing that you really don't appreciate until you handle a rifle like this is just how light and easy to handle it is. There's really no way to describe it. Is you can whip that thing around to be wherever you want it to be and hold it however you want. It just doesn't matter. The rifle is so light and so easy to point. The sights are pretty good that you hardly even notice that it's there. And that's really what you want out of a gun, is you don't want it to fight back at you at all. You don't want to have to think about any kind of idiosyncrasies. You just want to load a mag, pull the trigger, and it just works, and point it to wherever you want to go. It's kind of the same story with the pistol, although not really so much. Because I have the small magazines, I am very, very deliberate on each of my trigger pulls. I'm pretty familiar with the sights. It's basically just standard iron sights. I don't have any paint on them to help see better because I haven't found that I've really needed those. But you'll see again, Topton having a lot of targets makes for a very heavy reloading game. And that held me back more than any of the guns I was using, was just limited magazine capacity, which I knew going in, I knew to expect. My goal when doing something like this, and this goes for pretty much everything that I do with shooting, I'm not using the guns that I'm doing, or rarely, not using the guns that I am because they're the best. I'm using them because those are the guns that I want to use, and I want to see if I can, for lack of a better description, overcome them, and how well I can do with the handicaps I'm giving, or if they're handicaps at all. Like if I'm using my CZ75, my B that I've had for years and shot a lot, that's hardly a handicap. It's a 16-round flush fit mags. I have 19s as well, full size with iron sights and a pretty good trigger. That's not a handicap at all. The 1911, the Walther P1, the CZ52, those are handicaps. And when I use stuff like that, it's because I want to see just how well I can do. If I'm familiar with it enough that I can do not good, but can I finish all of the stages, and can I not be last? Can I beat, how many people can I beat using subpar equipment? And that's something that I really appreciate. Now, there's something I need to clarify here. You see me hot re-holster a pistol. Normally, that is an instant DQ. However, on this stage, it was really required. Because Topton's designed around 3-gun shooters. That first string that you just saw is normally done with shotgun, but the 2-gun shooters, you have to start with your pistol, and they didn't have a system like you would drop the mag and fire your last shot at something. They didn't have that, so they just told you to hot reholster your pistol. And again, normally that is something that is not done ever, but it was done here as a very rare exception. So I don't know if we'll ever see that again, probably not. But just so that you don't freak out, yes, that was part of the stage. No, I didn't get DQ'd, and neither did anybody else for doing that. Although if you're doing 3-gun, that was only for 2-gun shooters. If you're doing 3-gun, you had your shotgun, and you did pistol later in the stage. Spinner, not really worth talking about. I was only double tapping. I wasn't double tapping. I was only tapping the bottom plate, just because I wasn't that confident that I could go between the 2 plates with iron sights. The first time I came here into the rifle spinner, I had my VZ58, which had a red dot on it, and I was able to go between the plates just fine. The last time I came here was with the FAL, and 308 sent it over with 2 shots, so that was just a non-issue. The other thing about this match was that because it was raining, we knew it was going to rain beforehand, it's all falling steel. You'll notice there was never any paper. Even on the stage that wasn't recorded, there was no paper either. That was really convenient, and I'm really happy that they did that. And again, on video for the last stage, sorry, but I did end up doing pretty well overall. 24th out of 39 is pretty alright in my book, with a 7-round pistol and a rifle with 20-round mags and iron sights. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, though you probably didn't. Maybe you did. I was pretty miserable when I got home. Luckily, I had some Rutter's pizza and a shit ton of lemonade. But now that I've had my cold shower, it is time to sit back, have a drink, and watch some anime later.